So this is more of like already an introduction on what software-defined networking is in relation also to network functions virtualization. So having said that, no, and now briefly, these are the topics that I'll be discussing for the next hour or so. So it might be a bit overwhelming here at first because these are a lot, but I'll try my best to also give you an overview on these different topics and how you can also at least have a brief understanding on number one, how both of these technologies are interrelated, no? And number two, how are they currently also being used in the premise of telecommunications in general? Okay. So first off, what is software-defined networking? Is this a new technology that is similar to AI, wherein it is more popular? Is this a new technology altogether? No. Well, this technology is in fact existing for quite some time already. In fact, it was around 2010s, the early 2000s. If we would go as back as there, no. And it is also being used nowadays, no, not just in the space of telecommunications, but also in enterprise and even in IT. We can even say that this one was first implemented in the IT space, meaning it is another implementation on how we can simplify our transport network, no, and its management. Okay, so having said that, what is software-defined networking? Okay, so this is an approach on how we can implement our transport network. And normally in our telecommunications space, no, we normally split the telecommunications domain into three separate parts. We have the access domain, so this is the domain wherein you would find your eNode Bs, your radio controllers. If you still are aware of what 2G and 3G is, this is where your BSCs and RNCs would reside. This is also where your eNode Bs would be. And for 4G and 5G, this is where your Gnode Bs and eNode Bs would reside. So this is the access. This is also the one that is closest to the subscribers. Next, we have the transport domain. So this is the domain wherein you would now be finding the interconnections between the access and the other domain, which is the core domain. And the transport domain, this is where most of the channels are passing through. If I were to simplify it, no? And SDN is as technology is also where it would mostly reside. It's not completely isolated in the transport domain per se, but most of the use cases can be found inside the transport domain. And just to complete the entire architecture altogether, we have access, we also have transport, and finally we also have core. So the core domain, this is where myself, no, in the industry are is currently working with. No, I work in the packet core domain specifically. No, but as a domain, as a general knowledge, this is where the domain wherein most of the services would be residing. So meaning that this is where your 5G data service would be coming in. If you are familiar with voice over LTE, this is where most of the gateways and firewalls can be found. This is also where the termination point of one subscriber towards another subscriber from another network can also be found. Okay, this is also the domain wherein switching would also be performed, especially if you are, say, initiating a voice call, for instance. Okay, so going back here to SDN, no? Now, SDN, this is an approach for us to implement our transport network, okay, or our switches. Okay, in a software-defined network. So the keyword here is software-defined. Okay, and what makes this different from, say, quote unquote, application-based networking, right? Okay, let's compare them one by one. Okay, so normally in a typical transport network, it's all in about the functionalities. And when we talk about the SDN domain, it's essentially splitting two of the functionalities found inside your transport network elements. Okay, Recall that in your if you have already taken your IP networking or IP switching, no, um, the functionality of your network element is normally split into two. You have the domain that is responsible for, or sorry, the plane wherein most of the configurations are done. This is the control plane. And another plane wherein most of the packet forwarding is being done. This is now the data plane. In a traditional network or in a traditional device, no, these two functionalities can be found commingling and cohering, no, within a specific device only. Meaning that if I have a single switch, no, that switch, I have to configure it, I have to go inside it, log in via its CLI, configure any of the necessary routing that would be done in the NE device, and then using also that configurations alongside protocols, enable that device to do packet forwarding. So that is how also the relationship between the control network and the data network is exists. Okay, it's normally being done wherein most of the configurations are in the control plane, and then you rely on the data plane to forward the packets. Where does SDN come here? No, it's essentially abstracting or centralizing your control plane into a single entity or a single node. And in an SDN architecture, we refer to this as the SDN controller. Okay? This is a process that moves away from traditional networking, in which individual network devices are individually configured. And doing so, we just centralize everything into one node. And we call this the SDN controller. Okay? In an SDN architecture now, you are essentially decoupling the control part from the data part. Normally, the control part is also associated with the software, right? So hence also the terminology of software defined. The software defined term here actually refers to the configuration being centralized already. Okay? SDN moves the control plane that determines where to send traffic to software and leaves the data plane that actually forwards the traffic into the underlying node. So this is more of like a decoupling process wherein the control plane, this is also the part that is easily implemented in the form of an application or a software. You centralize it and just place it somewhere else, no? Removing it completely from your network element. And keep in mind, normally in an SDN architecture, we are referring to here to your switches, okay, or your the main equipment normally involved in the SDN architecture is normally the switches here. No? So you would see here also that in some of the sources, no, you would be referring to the SDN architecture as sort of like a re-implementation on how you connect your switches, L2 switches. No? So this also allows, now, why is it, what's the benefit of having an SDN architecture? No? This allows network administrators who use software-defined networking to program and configure the entire network via a single pane of glass. And this is via the SDN controller. Okay? Now, because we are implementing an architecture, of course, it consists also of your components and layers, right? So as a general implementation, the SDN architecture normally consists of three layers, okay, or three parts. So you have there your application layer, you also have your control layer, and finally, your infrastructure layer. Now, these layers are also, this is not to say that they isolate on their, or they exist on their own. They are in fact interconnected with each other. And we use application programming interfaces or APIs for them to communicate. Okay. Now, these layers, they also serve different functionalities. Okay. So we start off from the topmost layer, which is the application layer. What does it do? No. Remember that the definition of SDN, software-defined networking, is the decoupling of your control plane with your data plane. So it makes sense that the control plane resides in the control layer. Now, where am I coming from here? Now, where does now the application layer come into play? Because essentially we are removing or say offsetting functionalities from the switches and placing them in a common network element. We call it the SDN controller. No? The SDN controller itself, you can configure it to also have other services running and performing also in your network aside from being the SDN controller itself. Meaning that apart from just centralizing configuration, no, you can also load applications in the form of services that can further enhance your transport network. Okay, so those applications reside in the application layer. This contain normally network applications that run on top of your SDN controller. And if you're going to refer to, say, your OSI layers in your IP networking, no, this is normally where your L7 applications would also reside. So examples of which would be your firewalls, your load balancers. No? If you have web filtering, you can even implement it here in the application layer. Okay? So one layer below it, you now have your control layer. So this is where your SDN controller resides. So this controller resides normally in a server, and its main responsibility is to manage policies and to manage traffic flows within your SDN network. Okay, so essentially it does all of the centralized control, so to speak. Okay. Now, one layer beneath it, you now have your infrastructure layer. This is also where your switches would be residing. Okay? This is also made up of your forwarding functionalities. This is also where essentially you have your dumb switches already. Okay? Now, the application, the controller, and the infrastructure layer, as I mentioned a while ago, are all interconnected via APIs or application programming interfaces. So they communicate via APIs, and applications talk to the controller via a northbound interface API or northbound API for short. No? The controller and the switches also communicate via API, and then you call this the southbound interface or southbound API. There's currently also, no, now, think of it this way, no, a bit of a retrospect as well, that when you implement or when SDN was first implemented, it started off as an approach to simplify your network, no, within the IT space, okay, or within the IT domain. So think of it or picture it as if, no, you have here several servers communicating with each other, and then you have your SDN environment or SDN network. And having said that, no, unlike in your telco space, wherein we adhere to specific standards and to specific um, governing bodies for us to implement a service, SDN is a bit more, I would say, fluid, meaning that there is really no formal standard for implementing SDN. And having said that, although we have a governing body for SDN, no, how you implement SDN in your network can vary greatly depending on how it was also designed by the organization. Having said that, no, APIs themselves do not also have a formal standard. That's just my main point here. No? This is not like your 3GPP standard wherein you have specific interfaces in order to implement a specific service. No? SDN, because it has its roots in the IT environment or IT use case, and we also know how um, ever-changing and dynamic the IT environment is. So there's also really no set standard for implementing APIs in your SDN environment. Okay, that's just my main point here. Okay, comparing now SDN into your quote unquote traditional networking. And by traditional here, it refers to um, how the typical layered architecture in your transport would be implemented, no? Of course, we have some benefits and also limitations. Okay, remember that SDN, like all other technologies nowadays, it doesn't exist as the one size fits all solution. It is also not the magic bullet that would be able to solve everything. It still has its or also limitations. And in fact, I'm going to share them later on. No? But comparing this to your typical or conventional networking, no, we see here that it is relative, it offers relatively better benefits compared to just having it in having a traditional network implemented in your architecture. No? With the main feature of it having a centralized configuration and resource provisioning. So that is in fact the main feature or the main um, capability of SDN. No? And this is also the reason why most of the organizations are um, gearing towards SDN or they have already implemented SDN in their architectures. No? Oddly enough, this is also the reason why some organizations refuse to go to SDN because depending also on their requirement, they might also not need a centralized means of configuration. Albeit it is a simplified approach, but depending on the use case, they might not need it or they might not want it altogether. Okay? So that's one feature, centralized configuration. And having said that, because it also follows that you centralize your configuration into a single entity or into a single node, no, security can also be simplified. But keep this in mind that this is a bit of a double-edged sword, meaning that when you centralize your security or when you centralize your configuration and your management, this can also be a potential threat because you also have to make sure that you enforce security in that single node. Otherwise, it can already also be a central point of failure. We'll discuss this one later as well. No? Okay, moving on. No? So what are the benefits of implementing SDN into your network? Of course, you have simplified policy changes. You also have a simplified network management and a centralized visibility of your entire network. You also have reduced hardware footprint and OPEX. No? Now, highlighting this third point, reduced hardware footprint and OPEX. A bit of a caveat here as well that um, some solutions available right now in the market, especially for those in organizations, no, they offer their SDN solutions to be a bundle of sorts, right? So some manufacturers and some vendors would even offer a software only solution, meaning that if say you already have an existing infrastructure in your network and you want to implement SDN, there's really no requirement for you to overhaul your entire network. And all you have to do, if you have servers lying around there and you want to repurpose them, no, you can just procure your SDN application and redeploy and deploy it into your network, and boom, you have your SDN already there. Okay. Remember that the key component here is the SDN controller, right? And the SDN controller can just be even offered as an application. Heck, nowadays it can be offered as a virtual machine, right? And that is the only thing that you have to purchase from your vendors. Okay? So thereby reducing your capex or capital expense or your investment in a way wherein you don't need to necessarily purchase hardware for your SDN controller. You just need to purchase your software. Okay. Then lastly, you have network innovations because everything is already software driven. No, remember how fluid and flexible software is. No, I mean not just referring to SDN but also to say your typical web applications. It is easily configurable and um, it can easily be replicated, modified, no, depending on how the code is available. No, regardless, no, because also SDN solutions are available for us not just commercially but also open source. It drives also innovations, not just in organizations but also by individuals. Okay. Now, on the other side, this is not to say that again, no, the technology doesn't just exist or exist as a magic bullet. No, it's not just a one size fits all solution. It also has its own challenges and limitations. No, so first off, security. So I've already mentioned this a while ago that SDN, because you are centralizing your controller, it can also be a possible risk that an organization needs to assess before they can implement the technology in their network. Okay? Now, this can be both a benefit and a possible concern, right? Because remember that in your security, if you only have a single point of failure, no, this can also be a single point of penetration by external threats. Okay, so that's one limitation. Another one is an unclear definition because SDN has its roots in the IT space. There is also, unlike in your, say, 3GPP standard or your Wi-Fi standard, or even in your heck, even in SDN NFV, no, in your ETSI standards, no, there's really no currently set definition of software-defined networking. We have definitions of it, meaning the theoretical definition, and under a separation between control plane and data plane, no. But how it can be implemented, there's really no set standard. It still depends on the solution being offered by the vendors and the manufacturers, no? Which leads me to the third and fourth points, which is market confusion. Some vendors would offer or package their solution, or they would market it to be quote unquote SDN. But when you try to look at it in the technology itself, it's a completely different technology altogether. So this is something to keep in mind. No? This is also the reason why we always go back to basics. No? We go back into that definition of SDN to be a technology that separates the control plane from the user plane. Okay. Implementing network disaggregation is another technology. Network slicing, which can look like a separation of control from data plane, is also another technology. Okay, so it really depends on how an organization is able to assess and accept what is SDN for them. Okay, and because of that, no, another limitation here is slow adoption and cost. It's a bit ironic here. It's because the technology is also available open source, and it's sort of like a juggling game here, because when you are also driving the technology towards innovation, tweaking out parameters, testing out new capabilities, no, it takes a while also for the community to eventually have a valid and practical use case for it. Hence the slow adoption and the high development costs. Okay? Now, SDN can be implemented several ways. Okay? So we have four different models and approaches on how an organization is able to implement the technology. Okay? Now, what are these for? First off, we have OpenSDN. And this is normally also the one mostly driven by the community in the form of an open source, as an open source technology. Okay, OpenSDN, it allows administrators to use a protocol like OpenFlow in order to separate the data plane from the control plane. So imagine just having only a protocol enabled in your devices, you can already have SDN in your architecture. No, just enabling OpenFlow. Take note, OpenFlow, by the way, is just one of the many protocols that allows you to implement SDN. More of that one later. But my point here is that just having a protocol enabled, making sure that your devices are able to support said protocol, You already have SDN there. No? Another one is SDN by APIs, wherein instead of using a protocol, you implement an API. Okay? Wherein you still have your physical devices already deployed in production, but you have a dedicated API that is meant to only run SDN transactions. You already have also SDN there. So imagine, no, in the first two, it's just a matter of having a protocol, developing an API, you already have SDN in your architecture. Okay. For more complex implementations, you already have an SDN overlay model. So this is not to say that you are overhauling your network altogether, meaning you are replacing hardware here. It can still be purely software related. But for the overlay model, this consists of running a virtual network on top of your existing transport network, meaning that the SDN can even reside as an overlaid network on top of your physical network. So you are already separate. You have a physical network, but on top of it, you run SDN. Okay, through logical configurations. No, so that's one. And then the last one, hybrid SDN, wherein a portion of your network is still traditional, but a portion of it is purely SDN, meaning that there are some switches that is connected to a controller, some switches still exist as your typical traditional switches. So that is a hybrid SDN. So imagine, no, there are several iterations and deployments on how you can implement it. No? And it's still considered an SDN. So making this relatable, since because it is Pride Month, no, it is similar to this. You know, you have, it's not a black and white sort of scenario wherein if you have this, you have SDN. If you do not have it, you do not have SDN. This actually resides as sort of like a spectrum, depending on how you implement it in your network. Okay, so I mentioned something about OpenFlow. So recall that in your architecture, OpenFlow resides as a protocol in your southbound API. So meaning this is a protocol um, that is enabled as a communication between the controller and the forwarding switches. But what is OpenFlow? No? So this is a protocol defined by by the Open Networking Foundation. So this is also a governing body for SDN, ONF, for implementing SDN. Okay? So this is not to say that this is the only protocol that allows you to implement SDN. In fact, there are also existing protocols that you can use to implement said technology. No? But focusing more on OpenFlow, this defines an interface between an OpenFlow enabled controller and an OpenFlow enabled switch. It allows the controller to instruct OpenFlow switches to handle traffic, no, using what's called flow tables. Now we have a separate module for this in our course, no. And if you are enrolled to it, you can even, or we discuss this, or we dive deep into the OpenFlow switch itself. But the point here is that the protocol allows a switch to communicate to a controller via a dedicated protocol and API. Okay? And logically speaking, inside your OpenFlow switch, no, it uses what's called flow tables in order to redirect your traffic from one switch to the next. Okay, so point-to-point communication, as they would say. Okay? Now, if you try to implement, or if you want to implement rather, OpenFlow as your main protocol, as your main driver for your SDN, no, it perfectly also aligns with the SDN architecture. Okay? All you have to do is you have to make sure that your controller has OpenFlow or it supports OpenFlow, no? And your switches also support your OpenFlow protocol. Okay, that's just the main requirement for it. If you have these features enabled in your switches and in your controller, no, you can essentially implement OpenFlow as your main architecture, and your main protocol. Okay, so that is SDN in a nutshell. No, so there are still a lot of intricacies related to the said technology. No, but as a quick overview, so we know that now SDN, this is the technology that allows us to split the control plane from the data plane. And we implement that said separation by deploying what's called an SDN controller and having that SDN controller manage its resources, which come in the form of your forwarding switches. Okay? Then, in terms of communication, you can implement SDN using a dedicated protocol called the OpenFlow protocol. But again, it's not the sole protocol to have SDN. You can even implement it using other existing protocols. Okay? So let's park SDN a bit. I'll now introduce to you another technology, which is called network functions virtualization. So before I can relate the two together, let's also define what is NFV. Okay, so NFV, again, similar also to your SDN, it has its roots back into your IT domain. Okay, now its scenario is somewhat similar to SDN, wherein you're trying to simplify your infrastructure. But if SDN focuses more on the transport domain, no, or your switches, NFV focuses more on the end devices themselves. Okay, for the ones who are passing or who are initiating the traffic. Okay. In the IT domain, this can come in the form of your servers, right? You have your web servers, your databases, your application servers, no? And if we're going to place this in the telco space, this is where your core network would be residing. So notice that um, in your SDN, it mainly focuses more on the transport domain, whereas in NFV, it focuses really more on the core domain. Okay. Again, like in SDN, this can also exist as a spectrum. You can also implement NFV into its different forms and iterations, no, and still consider it to be NFV. But what makes NFV different from, say, ordinary virtualization? Well, let's take that keyword, or let's take two keywords from the term itself. No? First off, network functions. No? So, network functions, we know that in the core domain, this is where your gateways, your switching devices would be residing. No? NFV is a way to virtualize services, gateways, routers, and firewalls, essentially your end devices, and deploy them using virtual machines. Essentially, you are creating software-defined network elements. Okay? But this software definition comes in the form of virtual machines. And you use this, or you use an existing IT technology called virtualization. Okay? This is different from your virtual reality or augmented reality. That is completely different. The virtualization being referred to here is abstracting physical hardware from logical hardware. Okay, I'm not sure if some of you have already tried working on with emulation software. No, so for it normally exists in the retro gaming community, wherein it's possible for you to, say, run a Game Boy Advance using your PC. Although you have a physical desktop, no, you have a physical laptop, no, it is able to emulate the functionalities of, say, a Game Boy Advance, no, which is a completely different hardware altogether. But it is running as a server, no, or it is running as an application inside your physical machine. So it is a similar, it's somewhat a similar technology here. No? The only difference is that in virtualization, you're essentially allocating a portion of your physical hardware to run as a separate entity altogether. It essentially runs as a physical object that is completely separate as a function from your physical hardware. Okay? Think of it this way, that You have a physical machine, no? I'm talking here really more of like in the IT space already, no? Think like you have one physical machine and it is running one operating system, say Linux, no? Through virtualization, it's possible for you to have one physical machine that is running Linux as its main operating system, but inside of it, you can run a smaller machine that say is Windows as an operating system, and it is treated as a completely separate entity from the actual physical machine. So that is virtualization. No, it allows you to run separate IT-based systems. Normally, it is on up to the operating system level. No, just by having one physical machine. So it's essentially possible for you to have only one machine, but inside of it, you have several operating systems running independently with each other. Okay? That is on the IT space. Take that same technology and implement it in your core network, for instance, in the telco use case, you now have your NFV. Okay? So with NFV, dedicated hardware is not necessarily needed. Okay? Meaning that normally in a typical um, core architecture, whenever say you want to implement a new service, no, it also is associated with a physical box. So say for instance, we want to deploy 4G in our network, no? Of course, the telco operator would implement or would have to procure your network elements, no, that would enable the network to run the 4G broadband service. You have to purchase a GGSM, an SGSM, no, sorry, if we're talking here of 4G, no, you have your signaling gateway, your packet gateway, your data gateway, you also have your DNS, you also have your AAA, and all of these network elements reside in an appliance-based deployment to be separate machines. Okay? But in virtualization, instead of having five physical machines, it's possible for you to just have, say, two or three servers, but you still have the five services running on two physical servers. If I were to simplify it, no? Of course, a caveat here is that it still depends on how the operator is able to deploy said network elements, considering capacity and also performance, no? But to generalize the technology on its own, no, that is what NFV is capable of doing. It allows you to implement several network services by decoupling them from one physical hardware and placing them as a virtual machine as an application in a way inside your server. Okay. So thereby you are really decompressing or condensing your hardware footprint into a few racks, so to speak. Okay. So some of the features of NFV is that similar into your SDN, you have also a centralized means of management. Now, in your SDN, this would come in the form of your SDN controller. But in your NFV, it would exist as a separate box altogether called Management and Network Orchestration, or the MANO. Okay? In your NFV architecture, another feature for this is because you are already using commercial off-the-shelf hardware, you're using essentially COTS hardware or servers. No? You also need a way to manage all of the several servers in your data center, right? So this is also another requirement for you to deploy your MANO because you need a way to provision your virtual machines in a centralized manner. You don't necessarily have to go into the individual servers and instantiate a VM, no? CLI by CLI, command by command, no? You can just use it, or you can provision your virtual machines via what's called a MANO. And keep in mind here, we're already talking here about virtual machines. So essentially, your applications or your network elements already reside as virtual machines. It is not always one is to one, meaning that, for instance, if I want to deploy a data gateway for my 4G network, because it is just one entity, it doesn't mean that it is also associated to one virtual machine. Okay? Sometimes, depending on the functionality and structure of that network function, no, it can be several virtual machines altogether. But in terms of its hardware footprint, it can just all of them can reside into a single server. No, it's possible. Okay. Now, SDN has an architecture. It consists of three layers. Remember, your application, your controller, and your physical layers, and all of them are connected via your APIs. NFV also has an architecture. So, um, unlike, however, your SDN architecture, wherein it has a sort of like a guideline of sorts, where it really depends on an organization and how they implement SDN. NFV follows a specific standard. Okay. And NFV architecture is in fact governed by a separate organization, European Telecommunications and Standards Institute, ETSI. They were the ones who are also who developed the architecture also. But the main point here, although this can look a bit intimidating at first, no, you only have to focus here, similar to your SDN, no, just focus on three main components. Okay, in your NFV architecture, remember in your SDN, you have your application, your controller, and the physical. Application, this is where your servers reside. Control, this is where your control and management reside. And the physical is where your resources or the data plane resides. Okay? So notice also that in your SDN architecture, it is stacked vertically. Okay? So application, controller, and data plane. Okay, just tip that architecture on its side. You already have also your NFV architecture. Okay, the application layer in your SDN, it has a counterpart in your NFV, and this is what's called now your virtual network functions. This is where your network elements would be residing. This is also where it would be deployed as applications. Okay, so you also have your, so you have your application. What's the next layer in your SDN architecture? You have your control layer. So in the NFV architecture, the control layer resides as your MANO, management, automation, and network orchestration. So this is essentially the component responsible for managing all of the resources from the application up to the physical layer. And having said that, no, in your SDN architecture, you have your physical layer. This is also where your physical switches would be residing. And this is also where the data plane would be residing. In the NFV architecture, this exists as your infrastructure, okay, or NFVI, Network Functions Virtualization Infrastructure layer. So notice the similarities between SDN and NFV. You have three layers in SDN. In your NFV, you have three components as well. You have in your SDN an application, a control, and resource. Here in NFV, you also have function, management, infrastructure. It's just laid out in a different setup altogether. Okay? So, having said that, no, how does now SDN interoperate with NFV? And is it possible for us to implement both of them in the same network? Definitely the answer is a yes. Okay. Notice that the SDN technology exists in the transport layer. It is responsible for essentially having your end devices communicate coherently with a centralized management via the SDN controller. No? This can be also implemented in the NFV use case, right? So meaning that remember what the model types that I have discussed a while ago, that you also have a hybrid SDN, no? Another possible use case or deployment for a hybrid SDN environment is having the controllers deployed as virtual machines. Okay? So think of the controllers to also be virtual machines residing in a server managed by an NFV architecture. That's one way on how you can implement both SDN and NFV. Another implementation is the one that I am showing to you here. No? Suppose, say, you have a firewall or you want to deploy the firewall service in your telecom network. No? And normally, the application itself resides as three separate components. You have the service, the firewall service itself. You also have the operating system used to manage the said hardware. And finally, you have the actual hardware. If you want to implement this in a traditional sense, meaning as an appliance-based deployment, this firewall service normally resides as a single device inside your data center, right? So meaning that all of its components, its full stack monolithic components, reside in a physical box found in your data center. And it is just there. It is sitting there. It is doing its thing. It is running its service. Okay. Now, in a more glorified approach on using SDN and NFV, we can implement a firewall service. But instead of having those different components just reside in one physical entity, in a one physical device, we can have all of the resources deployed across several data centers. No? And essentially, you are using SDN as sort of like a glue that allows these different resources to communicate and interact with each other, geographically speaking, no, and still have in the network a single entity. So one ideal use case for SDN and NFV deployed in your network is that, say, you have a virtual firewall and you want to deploy it to serve your subscribers in North Luzon region, okay? But the servers are running somewhere in the South Luzon region. The operating system and the application is running on a separate server altogether. Its integration points are running, say, in Mindanao, okay? And then the management and orchestration layer is found somewhere in NCR, for instance. So notice, all of them are spread out in your architecture, but in the network's perspective, it is just seen as one logical node or one logical entity. That's the power of SDN and NFV interworking with each other. Are we already there? Well, some operators have already done so. Some operators are also halfway. Some operators do not implement them all together. Again, no, it really depends on how the organization wants it to be implemented and how much of these two technologies they also want to implement. Okay? So, what's my summary here? No? So we've discussed a lot here, no, in just a few minutes, no, of the time here. So let's have a quick recap on what the technology here is about. So we now know that SDN, this is a technology that allows us to essentially split the control plane from the data plane and have it as a centralized component, no, in the form of an SDN controller, no. We also discussed that the SDN architecture consists of three layers. You have your application layer, you have your control layer, and your infrastructure layer. All of these layers communicate via application programming interfaces or APIs. And essentially, you have two types, which is your northbound from your controller facing your applications, that is your northbound API. And you also have your southbound APIs, which are your APIs that communicate between the controller towards your forwarding switches. OpenFlow is a protocol that allows you to communicate in the southbound API region. Okay? It is also possible for us to implement SDN in a spectrum of deployment types. You can just have a protocol enabled and you can have SDN. It can be as simple as that, or it can even be as complex as overhauling your complete network to be fully SDN driven, or it can even be a combination of having your existing network coincide with an SDN architecture or the hybrid SDN. We also discussed here NFV, Network Functions Virtualization, its basic concepts, and how it can also be related into SDN. We also discussed here some similarities between SDN and NFV. And finally, how they can also interoperate with each other. So they are in fact complementary as two separate technologies. One can reside without the other, but it's much better if both of them are existing in your same